Park stood at the entrance of the Galactic Academy and tried not to cry. The station was huge, bigger than anything she had ever seen. Metal walls stretched up so high she could not see the ceiling. Thousands of alien students walked past her, and none of them looked even a little bit human. She was 16 years old, and she was the first human to ever study here. Her mother had cried at the shuttle port back on Earth. Her father had pretended he was not crying, but saw him wipe his eyes when he thought she was not looking. Her grandmother had held her hands tight and said, "Eat well. No matter what happens, eat well." Now dragged her heavy bag through the crowded hallway and tried to find dormitory wing sign. Every sign was in a language she could not read, but her translation device hung around her neck and whispered the meanings into her ear. Turn left. Go straight. Take the transport tube to level 7. When she finally found her room, 3 aliens were already inside. The first one was made of crystal, not like glass but like a living diamond that moved and spoke. Light passed through their body and made rainbow patterns on the walls. Their name was, and when they spoke, their voice sounded like small bells ringing. The second one had 4 arms and blue skin. They were tall and strong and looked like they could lift a shuttle with one hand. Their name was Bolo, and they smiled with a mouth full of flat teeth. The third one was not solid at all. They were a cloud of colored gas floating inside a clear sphere that hovered in the air. Their name was, and they communicated by changing colors. Right now, they were a soft purple, which the translation device said meant curious. "You are the human," said. It was not a question. Nodded, "Yes, I am Park, please take care of me." She bowed the way her mother had taught her. The 3 aliens looked at each other. Bolo leaned close to and whispered, but's translation device picked it up anyway. "Is that a threat display, the bending of the body?" "No," said quickly. "It is a greeting, it means respect." "Strange," flickered Orange, which meant confused. "You lower your sensory organs toward the ground to show respect. What if there is danger below?" Did not know how to answer that question. The first week was hard. Went to classes and understood nothing. The teachers spoke about science and math that humans had not discovered yet. The other students moved in groups and always walked alone. In the cafeteria, everyone received nutrient paste from machines. The paste was gray or brown or sometimes green, and it tasted like nothing at all. Hated it. Every night she lay in her small bed and listened to her roommates talk, hummed as they absorbed minerals from a special lamp. Bolo read books on 4 different screens at the same time, floated silently, their colors dim and peaceful, and thought about her mother's cooking. Before she left Earth, her mother had packed 12 containers of food, real food, kimchi that her grandmother made by hand, rice that her mother cooked fresh every morning, soup with tofu and vegetables and spicy red paste. Her mother had sealed everything in special containers that would keep the food fresh for months. "The galaxy is big," her mother had said, "but my cooking will remind you that you have a home." Had not opened any of the containers yet. She was embarrassed. What would her roommates think if they saw her eating strange human food? What if they thought she was disgusting? But tonight she was so hungry. The nutrient paste sat in her stomach like wet sand. She missed flavor. She missed warmth. She missed the smell of her mother's kitchen. She waited until late at night, once light had dimmed and Bolo was snoring softly and had turned a sleepy gray. Then she crept out of bed and took 1 container from her bag. Kimchi, her favorite. The dormitory had a multi-species preparation unit in the common area. It could heat things, cool things, or change the air pressure for different species. Put her container inside and press the button to heat it. The machine hummed. The container grew warm, and then the smell came out. It was the most beautiful smell had experienced in weeks, spicy and sour and rich. It smelled like home. It smelled like her mother standing at the stove, humming old songs. It smelled like her grandmother laughing at the dinner table. opened the container and almost cried with happiness. She picked up her chopsticks and took one perfect bite. Then the alarm started. Red lights flashed on every wall. A loud voice announced something in an alien language, and her translation device shouted in her ear, "Warning! Biological contamination detected in dormitory wing Cyan. All residents must evacuate immediately. Security teams are responding." Sat frozen with her chopsticks in the air. Doors opened everywhere. Aliens ran out of their rooms looking scared. His crystal body was vibrating with fear. Bolo's 4 arms were raised like they expected to fight something, had turned bright red, which meant danger. And then the security officers arrived. They wore heavy armor and carried scanning devices, and they pointed those devices directly at. "The contamination source has been located," one officer announced. "It appears to be the human." Looked down at her soup, then back up at the armored officers, then at her terrified roommates. "Oh no," she whispered. She had made a terrible mistake. The security officers surrounded like she was a dangerous criminal. Their scanning devices beeped and flashed as they studied her soup. One officer spoke into a communication device, using words that sounded very serious. His hands were shaking. The chopsticks fell from her fingers and clattered on the table. "Please," she said, "I can explain. This is just food. It is just dinner." Nobody listened to her. More aliens arrived. Some wore medical uniforms. Some wore the fancy robes of Academy officials. Everyone was staring at and her small container of kimchi like it was a bomb about to explode. Her roommate stood far away behind a security barrier. His crystal body was still vibrating. Bolo looked confused, their 4 hands opening and closing nervously, had turned such a dark red that they almost looked black. Wanted to disappear. Finally, an old alien pushed through the crowd. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Their skin was gray and wrinkled like ancient paper, and they moved slowly with the help of a floating chair. But their eyes were sharp and intelligent. "I am Elder," the old said, "Chief Medical Officer of this academy. Let me see this contamination." The security officers stepped back. Elder floated close to his table and looked down at the soup. They scanned it with a small device attached to their wrist. The device made soft sounds as it analyzed everything. Elder was silent for a long time. Then they looked up with an expression she could not understand. "This substance," Elder said slowly, "contains fermented vegetable matter. The fermentation was caused by bacterial colonies that were deliberately cultivated over several days. The vegetables were then combined with animal protein and plant material, mixed with water and mineral compounds, and heated to a temperature high enough to kill most living organisms." Nodded, "Yes, that is how you make kimchi. My grandmother makes the kimchi herself. She uses a recipe from her grandmother." The room was completely silent. "You are telling me," Elder said, "that your species intentionally grows bacteria on food?" "Yes, it is called fermentation. Many human foods use it." "And then you apply extreme heat to destroy the bacteria and change the chemical structure of the materials?" "Yes, that is called cooking." "And then you put this substance inside your body, through the opening in your face." Touched her mouth. "Through my mouth, yes, that is how humans eat." Elder turned to look at the crowd. Every alien in the room had the same expression of complete shock. Some looked sick. Some looked scared. Some looked like they had just heard the most disturbing thing in their entire lives. "I have studied many species," Elder announced. "I have never seen anything like this." Felt her face grow hot with embarrassment. "I am sorry. I did not know this would cause trouble. On Earth, this is normal. Everyone cooks food. Everyone eats together." The whispers started immediately, heard fragments through her translation device. "Primitive species. Barely civilized. They process organic matter through their bodies like waste recyclers. How are they part of the Confederation?" wanted to cry, but she refused to let the tears fall. She was representing all of humanity. She could not cry in front of everyone. The Academy Council called an emergency meeting that same night. Had to stand in the center of a huge circular room while dozens of alien officials sat above her, looking down like judges. They asked her many questions. How often did humans eat? 3 times a day, usually. What kinds of things did humans eat? Plants, animals, fungi, many things. Did humans always heat their food? Not always, but often. Were all humans capable of this cooking? Yes, anyone could learn. The more answered, the more disturbed the council members became. One official, a tall being made of living metal, leaned forward. You said humans eat animals. You mean you consume the flesh of other living creatures? Yes, said quietly, many humans eat meat. The room erupted in horrified murmurs. Your species are predators, another official said. We knew this from the historical records. Humans hunted other species on your planet. You chased them until they were too tired to run. Persistence predators, I believe the term is. Did not know what to say. It was true. Humans were predators. But they were also artists and scientists and poets and parents who loved their children. We are more than that, she said. We are not dangerous, we just want to learn. The council discussed for a long time. Finally, they made their decision. Would not be expelled from the academy. She had not broken any rules because there were no rules about cooking since nobody had ever done it before. But from now on, she had to prepare her food in a special room, far away from other students. A containment area. Bowed to the council and said thank you, but inside she felt broken. She walked back to her dormitory alone. The hallways were empty now. Everyone had gone back to sleep, but knew they would all be talking about her tomorrow. The strange human who ate bacterial food, the predator species who consumed flesh. She was almost at her room when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned around and saw the crystal alien walking toward her. That smell, said softly, from your food. Prepared herself for disgust or fear or anger. But said something unexpected. It made me feel something. I do not have a word for it. When I sensed the smell, something happened inside my crystal matrix, like a warmth but not temperature, like a color but not light. Stared at really. Can you explain what you were doing? Asked. Not the science. I understood the science, but why? Why do humans do this strange thing with food? Thought about her mother. She thought about her grandmother. She thought about every meal she had ever shared with people she loved. I can try to explain, she said, but it might take a while. His crystal surface shimmered like starlight. I have time, they said. For the first time since arriving at the academy, smiled. His containment kitchen was a small room at the far end of the academy. The walls were thick, and special filters cleaned the air so no smells could escape. The academy had built it just for her, and knew they meant it as a kind of prison. But she decided to make it something else. On the first day, she cooked rice. Simple white rice, the way her mother made it every morning. She washed the grains 3 times until the water ran clear, added exactly the right amount of fresh water, and let it cook slowly until every grain was soft and perfect. Came to watch. The crystal alien sat on the other side of the room, keeping a safe distance. They did not need to eat at all, absorbed minerals directly through their crystalline structure, but was curious, and curiosity was stronger than fear. The white grains said, they come from a plant. Yes, rice is a seed. Humans have been growing it for thousands of years. Scoop some rice into a bowl. My grandmother says that rice is the foundation of everything. If you have rice, you will not starve. Moved a little closer. Light passed through their crystal body and made patterns on the wall. And you put the rice inside your body for energy. For energy, yes, but also for comfort. When I was sick as a child, my mother made me rice porridge with a little salt. It always made me feel better. Food can heal illness. Not exactly, but it can make you feel loved, and feeling loved helps you heal. Was silent for a long time, then they asked, "Can I touch it?" Held out the bowl, reached with one crystalline hand and pressed a finger into the soft rice. A few grains stuck to their surface. The white color stood out bright against the clear crystal. "It is warm," said, "and soft. I have never touched anything so soft. You can keep those grains if you want, as a decoration." Looked at the rice stuck to their finger. Their surface shimmered with colors that was starting to understand meant happiness. "I think I will," they said. Word began to spread. At first, Only's roommates visited the containment kitchen. Bolo came next, curious about the textures and sounds of cooking. The four-armed had a digestive system somewhat similar to humans. An elder had given special permission for them to try small amounts of human food. Made bibimbap. She arranged vegetables in colorful sections around a bowl of rice, added a spicy red sauce, and mixed everything together. The colors were beautiful, like a painting you could eat. Bolo took one small bite. Watched nervously. She did not know what would happen. Maybe Bolo would hate it. Maybe their body would reject it. Maybe this was a terrible idea. But Bolo's four arms suddenly grabbed the edges of the table. Their blue skin turned a lighter shade. Their flat teeth stopped chewing as they sat completely frozen. Bolo asked, "Are you okay?" What Bolo said slowly, "Is happening inside my mouth. That is flavor, the taste of food. Is it bad?" Bolo did not answer for a long moment. Then they spoke in a voice filled with wonder. "My entire life, I have consumed nutrient supplements. They provide everything my body needs to survive, but they feel like nothing. They are just fuel." Bolo looked down at the bowl of bibimbap. "This feels like something. The soft rice, the different vegetables, the spicy sauce that makes my mouth warm. It is like my whole mouth is awake for the first time." "You experience this every day?" Bolo asked. "Multiple times every day?" Nodded. Bolo's four hands were trembling. "Your species is stronger than I realized," they said. "To experience such pleasure and still function normally, it would overwhelm me." More students began to appear. Some came during the day, some at night when the hallways were empty. They came from many different species, and most of them could not actually eat human food, but they wanted to watch. They wanted to understand. Explained everything. She talked about recipes passed down through generations. She talked about family meals where everyone gathered together. She talked about how food was connected to memory, to celebration, to grief. "When someone dies," she said one evening, "we prepare food for the family. Not because the family is hungry, but because making food is a way of saying I love you when words are not enough." A small student asked, "You use food to communicate emotions?" "Yes, a home-cooked meal says I care about you. Sharing food says we are family. Cooking for someone says I want you to be happy." The students looked at each other. Many of their species communicated through lights or sounds or chemical signals. The idea that something as physical as food could carry emotional meaning was strange and fascinating. But not everyone was happy about kitchen. A group of wealthy students had started a petition to ban human food preparation completely. Their leader was a young noble named, who wore expensive robes and spoke with cold authority. "Humans are dangerous," announced in the public forum. "They are predators who consume dead flesh. Their food practices involve biological manipulation and extreme heat treatment. This is not culture. This is barbarism." The petition gained signatures quickly. Many species were still uncomfortable with the idea of cooking. The incident in dormitory Wing Scion had scared them, and fear was hard to overcome. One morning, received a message. The Academy Council wanted to see her again. She walked to the council chamber with her head down, preparing for the worst. But when she arrived at the door, she found waiting for her, and Bolo, and floating in their sphere with colors of determination. And behind them, more students. 37 students from 17 different species, all waiting to walk into the council chamber with her. "What are you doing here?" asked. His crystal surface glowed warm. "You taught us that food means family. You are our friend. We will not let you face this alone." Felt tears in her eyes, but this time they were not sad tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Together, they walked into the chamber. The council chamber was full. On one side sat and the other nobles, surrounded by supporters who had signed the petition. They wore expressions of cold confidence. On the other side stood with her 37 friends, looking much smaller and much less powerful. The head counselor, an ancient being with silver skin and 6 eyes, called for silence. "We are here to discuss the petition to ban human food preparation at this academy," the head counselor announced. "Of the third house, please present your case." Stood and bowed gracefully. They moved to the center of the chamber and began to speak with a voice like polished metal. "Distinguished council members, this petition is about safety. Humans are a newly discovered species. Their civilization is young. Their technology is primitive compared to ours, and their biological practices are frankly disturbing." Activated a display showing diagrams and data. Human food preparation involves deliberately growing bacteria and fungi on organic matter. It involves applying extreme heat to destroy living tissue. It involves consuming the bodies of other living creatures. The images showed human cooking in the most disturbing way possible. Raw meat being cut, vegetables rotting during fermentation, fire burning under pots and pans. "These are not the practices of a civilized species," continued. "These are survival behaviors from a primitive world. Allowing them to continue puts our students at risk. The smell alone triggered our contamination alarms. What if actual contamination occurs? What if human bacteria infect our food supplies?" Many council members nodded in agreement. The fear in the room was thick enough to touch. "The petition has received over 2,000 signatures." Finished. "We ask the council to ban human food preparation immediately and permanently." The head counselor turned too. "The human may now respond." His legs felt weak as she walked to the center of the chamber. Every eye in the room was watching her. Every translator device was recording her words. She thought about running away. She thought about giving up. But then she remembered her grandmother's hands, old and wrinkled, carefully folding dumplings. She remembered her mother's voice singing in the kitchen. She remembered her father saying, "Our family's recipes are worth more than gold." She could not run away. She had to speak. "I am not good at speeches," began. "I am just a student. I came here to learn, not to cause trouble, and I am sorry that my food scared people. That was never my intention." She paused and took a deep breath. "But I cannot agree that human food practices are primitive. They are not. They are thousands of years of knowledge passed from parent to child. Every recipe I know was taught to me by my mother, who learned from her mother, who learned from her mother before that." Looked around the chamber. Called fermentation a dangerous practice, but fermentation is chemistry. It is controlled science developed over generations. My grandmother's kimchi recipe is over 200 years old. It has been perfected through careful observation and adjustment. That is not primitive. That is wisdom. Said cooking is barbaric because it uses heat, but heat is just energy transfer. We use it to make food safe, to change textures, to combine flavors in new ways. Human scientists have studied cooking for centuries. We understand exactly what happens at the molecular level. That is not barbarism. That is knowledge. And yes, humans eat meat. We are omnivores. We can survive on plants or animals or both, but we do not kill without respect. My grandmother says a prayer of thanks before every meal. She thanks the plants for growing. She thanks the animals for their sacrifice. She thanks the farmers who worked the land and the sun that gave everything energy. That is not cruelty. That is gratitude. His voice grew stronger as she spoke. But here is the most important thing. Food is not just about survival. Food is how humans say I love you. The chamber was completely silent. When my grandfather was dying, my grandmother sat by his bed and fed him soup, spoonful by spoonful. She had made that same soup for him for 50 years. It was the last thing he ever tasted. And when he died, my grandmother said she was glad she could give him one more bowl of love before he left. Felt tears on her cheeks, but she did not wipe them away. That is what food means to humans. It is not contamination. It is not danger. It is love made into something you can hold in your hands. She stepped back. I have nothing else to say. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Bolo stood up. I would like to speak, the four-armed said. The head counselor nodded. Bolo walked forward slowly. I have eaten human food, just rice and vegetables with sauce, but that single bite changed something inside me. For my whole life, eating was just refueling. I consumed nutrients because my body required them. There was no joy in it. Bolo's voice cracked slightly. When I tasted cooking, I felt joy. I felt pleasure. I felt alive in a way I never had before. Is that really something we should ban? Stood next. Their crystal body caught the chamber lights and scattered rainbows across the walls. I cannot eat human food. My biology does not work that way. But let me touch her cooking, and a little bit of red sauce stained my surface. Held up their hand, where a faint orange mark still remained. This stain is the first mark on my body that came from friendship, not from my crystal formation. I will keep it forever. Changed colors rapidly, and the translation system spoke for them. I cannot eat. I cannot touch. I am gas in a container. But watching share food with others has taught me things about human concepts that my translation matrices could never explain. Warmth, gathering, belonging. I understand these words now because I have seen them happen around a pot of soup. One by one, more students spoke. They talked about what they had learned. They talked about how the kitchen had become a place where different species came together. They talked about the strange magic of watching someone cook for people they cared about. Finally, Elder rose from their floating chair. The old moved slowly to the center of the chamber. Everyone fell silent out of respect. I have been a medical officer for 300 years, Elder said. When I first examined human food, I was horrified. It seemed dangerous and unsanitary and bizarre. Nodded eagerly from across the room. But I continued to study, Elder said. I researched human food science. I read their academic papers. I analyzed their recipes at the molecular level. The old paused, and I realized I was wrong. His expression froze. Human food practices are not primitive, Elder announced. They are remarkably sophisticated. Fermentation requires precise control of temperature, humidity, and bacterial cultures. Cooking involves complex chemical reactions that require exact timing and temperatures. Their recipes are essentially scientific formulas refined over thousands of years. Elder looked directly at. If anything, we should be studying human food science. It represents a branch of chemistry and biology that our species never developed. It is a gift of knowledge, not a threat. The head counselor called for a vote. The result was not even close. By a margin of 47 to 12, human food preparation was approved. The containment kitchen would remain open, and a new course would be added to the academy curriculum, comparative nourishment cultures. As left the chamber, surrounded by friends who were cheering and celebrating, she checked her communication device. There was a message from her mother. "Yet I heard there was some trouble. Are you okay? Are you eating well?" Smiled through her tears and typed back, "I am okay, and I am teaching a whole galaxy to eat well." 6 months had passed since the council vote. The small containment kitchen at the far end of the academy had changed completely. The walls that once felt like a prison now felt like home. Students had decorated them with art from 17 different worlds. Recipes were written on special boards in dozens of languages. And every day, aliens from across the galaxy came to learn about human food. Class Comparative Nourishment Cultures had become the most popular course at the academy. Students who could eat tried small samples of human cooking. Students who could not eat learned about the science and the stories. Everyone learned that food was more than fuel. Now it was the last day of the academic year and was preparing something special. The feast. She had been cooking since early morning. Her mother had sent new recipes through the interstellar communication system, carefully explaining each step in video messages. Add the sesame oil at the end, not the beginning, her mother said in one message. And do not forget the egg on top. The kitchen was full of wonderful smells. Rice cooked in stone pots, vegetables seasoned with garlic and soy sauce, dumplings waiting to be steamed, soup bubbling slowly with soft tofu and spicy paste. But the feast was not just about human food. Each student was bringing something from their own culture. Not food, necessarily, since most species did not eat the same way humans did, but something meaningful, something to share. As the station's lights dimmed to indicate evening, aliens began arriving at the feast. Came first, carrying a crystalline formation that they had grown especially for tonight. When light hit it, the crystal played music, soft, gentle tones that made everyone feel calm and peaceful. This is a friendship crystal, explained. On my world, we grow them to mark important relationships. Bolo arrived with all 4 arms full of instruments. They played a traditional song, using all 4 hands to create harmonies that no human could ever produce. The rhythm was strange but beautiful, and several students started moving to the beat. Floated into the room and released a carefully crafted atmospheric composition. Different scents filled different parts of the room. Fresh rain here, blooming flowers there, the clean smell of mountain air in another corner. It was art you could breathe. More students came. A being made of living shadow performed a dance that told the story of their planet's creation. A group of small furry creatures sang in a language that had no words, only emotions. A tall plant-like alien released spores that temporarily changed the color of everyone's skin to soft rainbow patterns. And through it all served food. She gave rice to everyone who could eat it. She explained each dish to everyone who could not. She told stories about her family and her planet and the long history of human cooking. The room was full of laughter and color and sound and smell. Different species sat together, talking and sharing and learning. For one night, the entire galaxy felt like one big family. Then saw someone standing at the edge of the room. It was the noble who had tried to ban her food, the one who had called humans primitive and dangerous and barbaric. Stood alone near the door, looking uncomfortable. They were not wearing their expensive robes tonight, just simple clothes. They looked smaller without their noble decorations. Walked over. "You came," she said. Did not meet her eyes. I did not plan to, but I heard the music from the hallway and I wanted to see what was happening. Would you like to join us? Hesitated. After everything I said about your species, after I tried to destroy this, they gestured at the room full of celebration. Thought about what her grandmother would do. Her grandmother, who always set extra places at the table in case someone unexpected came to visit. Her grandmother, who said that food was the best way to turn enemies into friends. There is always room for one more, said. Come, sit, eat. She led to a small table and brought a bowl of sweet rice dessert. It was her grandmother's recipe, the one she made when someone needed comfort. Soft, sticky rice with sweet red beans and a little honey on top. Looked at the bowl for a long time. I do not understand you, they finally said. Your species eats dead matter. You are descended from predators who chased their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Everything about you should disgust me. Waited. But you offered me a seat anyway, said quietly. After everything, you offered me a seat. That is what food means to humans, said. When we share a meal with someone, we are saying they are welcome. We are saying they belong. Took a small spoonful of the sweet rice. They chewed slowly, their expression unreadable. It is good, they said finally. I do not understand how or why, but it is good. They did not apologize for the petition. They did not suddenly become friendly, but they stayed, they ate, and that was enough for tonight. The feast continued until the station's lights started brightening for morning. Students slowly said goodbye and drifted back to their dormitories. Friendship Crystal still played soft music. Bolo was teaching a group of younger students a simple dance, had turned a happy shade of gold. Sat in the middle of it all, surrounded by empty bowls and satisfied friends, and felt something she had not felt since arriving at the academy. She felt home. Then her communication device buzzed, an incoming transmission from Earth. Her mother's face appeared on the screen. Behind her could see her grandmother, looking older and more fragile than remembered. Yeah, her mother said, smiling. Your grandmother has been watching the news. She saw the story about your feast. She wants to ask you something. The screen shifted, and her grandmother's face filled the frame. Those old eyes, full of wisdom and love, looked directly at. My granddaughter, her grandmother said in Korean, I need to know, did they like my kimchi recipe? Looked around the room, at with rice grains still decorating their crystal surface, at Bolo, who had eaten 3 bowls of bibimbap, at who had spent hours watching others eat and understanding human warmth for the first time, at still sitting alone but still present. At all the students from all the species, across all the galaxy, who had gathered to share food and stories and themselves. Yes, Grandma said, tears rolling down her cheeks. They loved it. They loved all of it. Her grandmother smiled the biggest smile had ever seen. Good, the old woman said. That is good. Now remember to eat well. No matter how far you go, no matter what you do, always remember to eat well. I will, promised, I will. The transmission ended. The feast was over. The academic year was done. But knew this was not really an ending. It was a beginning. A whole galaxy was learning that food meant love, that cooking meant care, that sharing a meal meant becoming family. And it had all started with one bowl of her mother's kimchi, eaten late at night in a dormitory on a space station far from Earth. Picked up the last dumpling from the serving plate, still warm, still perfect. She ate it slowly and smiled. It tasted like home,